Oakland County, Michigan is part of the metropolitan Detroit area and is located just north of that city. It's a very affluent area, and the median income ranks high among the counties in the United States. Yet despite the local wealth, there are pockets of extreme poverty, especially in Pontiac, the county seat.
So we fail at big problems because often we rush in with good intentions and start doing good things, and we'll end up frustrated and sometimes not achieving much. Maybe we'll have some good impact at first, but then things fall apart. And when people attack big change, you see them get disappointed and their hearts broken. And some of the most cynical people you'll see walking around in our neighborhoods are people who had a big heart and tried to do good things but failed. And we fail because we come at it from the perspective and start doing good things without stepping back and looking at complexity. And certainly what we're talking about today, self-sustainability from poverty. I mean, poverty, that's the cliche, right? Can't attack world hunger. But you know what? Smart people around the world are attacking world hunger, global issues, and attacking that and looking at the complexity of that. So can we maybe then do it in a county? And I think we can.
Oakland County is an affluent county in general, but our percentage of poverty is increasing. Within the last 6 years, our percentage of poverty in many of our schools in West Bloomfield has doubled, and many of our neighboring districts are experiencing the same thing.
The Pathway to Self-Sustainability Project came out of the St. John Fisher Chapel Justice and Peace Ministry. We spent about a year studying the barriers that keep people in poverty. Our concern is that poverty is not, in today's world of America, poverty is not something like my grandmother experienced. She was an immigrant. She expected to be poor. She didn't expect her children to be poor, and they weren't. Today, poverty is very often generational poverty, so that people who are in poverty cannot provide their children with the opportunities and the resources and the tools so that they will be in a better situation. Poverty is no longer a temporary thing. It is just an ongoing generational problem.
Over the past 3 years is a doubling of our homeless students. Now, it's not in the level of hundreds, but 30 is too many. 1 is too many.
So the way I see it is we need to attack it with hope, HOPE. It's an acronym.
What we're seeing in Oakland County and in West Bloomfield, that as the minority population and the population of poverty increases, that all of these cuts have an impact on children. It impacts children. And you're talking now more stable communities. Imagine what's happening in places like Pontiac or Hazel Park or Madison Heights. Good people, good children that deserve to have stability and to have a good education.
For the last 5 years, I've worked as a volunteer recruiting tutors for Rogers Elementary in Pontiac.
Pontiac, Michigan is a pocket of poverty in otherwise affluent Oakland County. Rogers Elementary is not far from St. John Fisher, where the Pathways Project was launched. Pontiac School District recently laid off teachers a month into the school year. Classroom overcrowding, often with 2 grades sharing one classroom, is pretty standard.
How in the world can you give any kind of individual attention when you've got that many kids? And I will repeat, in very small classrooms. So now I was talking to a school board member yesterday. She said 80% of the students in Pontiac do not meet their benchmarks. Now, I don't know if that translates into grade level. I think it's close, but she didn't specify. But in other districts, it would be just the reverse. Possibly 20% would not. 80% in Pontiac. That's unconscionable. What's going to happen to these kids?
And so the Pathways to Sustainability Project volunteers began to study best practice models utilized by local human service and education organizations.
We started to search for organizations that had services in place that were tracked to help people achieve actually getting out of poverty. We set ourselves a very high goal, or a very high criteria. We would like to see pathway services have an 80% success rating. So 80% of the people who complete the program, whatever the service it is, will in fact wind up being self-sustainable.
This has to truly be a collaborative partnership. We should do our homework first. We should go look at best practices, look at metrics, develop the coalition.
Our definition of self-sustainability is really simple. It means that I have the resources to pay for a basic standard of living today. So I'm not in the slide towards homelessness. I can pay my rent. I can pay my bills. I have the expectation that I will have these resources in the foreseeable future. So my job is not about to be outsourced to another country. And I have a plan in place so that when the inevitable financial emergencies come about, I will have the resources to be able to take care of them. We consider this self-sustainability to be at the basis of families feeling comfortable. It reduces stress. It helps people have the time and the energy to work with their children. And it's just an absolutely necessary part of living a good life. And so we want to identify programs that help people achieve this. And then we're a pathway. We act as the pathway whereby we, many, hopefully over 1,000 in the next year or two, we have over 200 today, or more than 200 today, pathway partners who are committed to either volunteer their time or support financially or advocate. There are many different ways in which our pathway volunteers help to expand these services. It is very difficult to find funding for services that truly are tracked to bring people out of crisis or out of the crisis cycle to self-sustainability.
This is no simple task. In an era of dwindling resources, economic challenges to the middle class, and some pretty entrenched service models, the Pathways team looked for successful programs that were replicable. One of those was a mentoring program called the Life Coach. Mentoring is the process of teaching an individual how the world works. To bridge people out of poverty, mentoring is about teaching the values, rules, norms, and behavioral standards of the middle class to those who have not experienced them. With this information and knowledge, individuals can more successfully navigate and participate in the world that they are transitioning into.
You know, one of the first things you learn about setting any kind of goals is they have to be attainable. They have to be realistic. So the mentoring relationship is a way to kind of check that. And the individual that I'm working with is very much aware of that. I mean, she's not a U.S. citizen. So she knows that when she looks at certain jobs that she would love to do, like she said, she'd love to be a crime scene investigator, but you have to be a U.S. citizen in order to do that. So I think not only the mentoring relationship, but just talking about that allows them to kind of look at what they've been thinking about and say, well, maybe that's not the path. So before I spend too much time and energy going down that path, I can kind of reconnect and readjust my thinking and get back in a different direction.
My value as a tutor is probably more saying to the children, I'm here because I care about you. I had a student come to me a couple of years ago, and he called my name across the street. Great big guy. He was in junior high and called out my name, Mrs. Strobel, Mrs. Strobel. And I turned around and he came running toward me, gave me a great big hug, and told me that he was getting A's and B's. Now, I hope that was true. But whatever, the message was that he knew I cared whether he got good grades. And that was a real warm moment for me. But I think that's what our value is. I mean, I'm sure we help in some way with the kids, don't get me wrong. But I think our value as tutors is more in the mentoring, saying, I'm here, kids, because I care about you.
And so the Pathways to Sustainability project strives to make a measurable difference, one person at a time, intervening early with students, mentoring young adults, and helping families to find what they need to move from crisis to a sustainable lifestyle.
So we have this American notion that if you work hard, you'll be fine and you won't be poor. But that's not the truth. But we don't know that if we don't know anyone who's in that situation. So part of Pathway is to bring the opportunity to people who are self-sustainable. Our partners don't need to be wealthy. They range anywhere from just kind of being self-sustainable themselves to being fairly wealthy. Everyone is welcome. And we feel that by providing them with an opportunity to learn more about the truth about poverty, we can change the conversation in our county. The conversation about poverty in this country has pretty much changed from the war on poverty to the war on the poor. It's very difficult to have a war on someone whom you know and care about.